Hi everyone. I want to start this video by saying thank you so much for your comments on my video regarding my stamp collection. I know I was moving around quite a bit, so some of you might have gotten a little bit of motion sickness, but you still appreciated my collection, so thank you so much. You're always so patient when people have technical problems. Today I want to share a card design that I like, and it's sometimes, when I have certain card designs, I think they're so stinking simple. Are they really worth doing on YouTube? But since this one takes advantage of a product that I know you probably have in your drawer and maybe neglecting, I figured I'd do it anyway. We're going to use today the Festive Flurry stamp set, which is a 2 CD stamp set with 4 amazingly beautiful snowflakes. And I will say that I do not believe that these are just for the winter. I think you can use these all year round, depending on what you use them for. Especially since they have corresponding dies, so that you can cut these snowflakes out. One thing I want to say is if you do some searches on Pinterest or on YouTube, I'm sure you'll find a lot of ornaments that are being made from these stamp sets. So they're great to add a little bit of bling to your tree. But today we're going to do something really simple, and I'm actually going to use the largest stamp in this set on a very small card. So I buy these little note cards from the art store, and they're Italian watercolor paper. And I love them so much because I can just grab them and make a quick card. So we're going to use that paper today. And I'm going to use Soft Sky ink. I suggest you use our new ink pads because this technique needs an ink that will stay wet longer. Okay? Or just go and pick out your wettest ink from your ink collection. Now what I'm pulling out of the drawer today are these 2 vials. And I'm sure 90% of you have this somewhere in your room. This was a fad for a while where everybody was using perfect pearls. And what happens with fads is sometimes we put those things away in our drawer when the fad ends and we forget about them. We'll pull these back out of your drawer because I'm going to show you a good way to use that product so that you get to enjoy it some more. I've chosen a blue perfect pearl and a gold perfect pearl. You can get these off of Amazon.com or you can try your local craft store. What I will do to get them started though, especially if you haven't used them in a while, is just tap them against my desk to loosen up the powders. Just give them a good hard tap. And I've mounted that large stamp that I was telling you about on a F block, which is our largest clear mount block. Okay, so first I'm going to ink it up, and since it's so large, I'm actually going to take the pad to the stamp, and I'm going to ink this thoroughly. Now, since I need the ink to stay wet a little bit longer with this technique, I'm going to ask that you really do take your time and get it well inked up. Okay, so after you see it all inked up, and you can tell because it's completely wet, we're going to stamp this on the front. So I've got this folded, but I'm going to put the fold line in the middle of my grid paper so I can tell where my front ends. And then I'm going to take the majority of the stamp, tilting it slightly, covering the front with a little bit of it kind of going off, right? And I'm making sure it's tilted. I really don't want it straight up and down. And I'm going to push that down and give it a good impression. Now if I was on smooth white paper at this point, this would already be done and I wouldn't need this extra moment, but because this is watercolor paper, I'm going to give it just a couple of seconds extra, and then I'm going to lift right straight up. You want to make sure that it's completely inked and that there's no edges dirty. And now I'm going to open up my gold powder first. And I'm going to use a small paintbrush to paint the powder, or I guess I should say lay the powder down onto the stamp. Notice I can be really sloppy. So if you don't like markers because you can't stand the lines and you don't color a lot because of that, this is a great technique because you can be really sloppy with this. And it's not a problem because the powders are going to stick only where the ink is wet. So as I'm laying this down, I'm not pushing or rubbing into the stamp because I could smear my stamp. Instead, I'm just laying them down and kind of pushing the powder just slightly. I mean, this is such a gentle tap. It's almost not worth talking about. Such a gentle tap that I'm doing here. And I'm just adding powder all over. Now, some of you may be thinking, wow, that's a lot of powder you're laying down, or that you might be thinking there's too little. You kind of learn as you practice this technique how much you like to lay down. I'm not one to worry about conserving powder because, like I said, I tend to hoard this stuff anyway, so I want to use it. But if you're concerned about hoarding or conserving the powder, then you can use a little bit less, and you don't want to do two colors in one sitting so that you can put it back in. Now I'm actually going to do two colors in one sitting, so I am not going to worry about putting that powder back in the bin. I'm actually going to pull out my blue now with the same brush, doesn't hurt anything, and I'm just going to put a few weird taps and highlights of the blue in certain areas, and it looks like a hot mess, right? Once I've done that, and I'm only doing the blue in a few places actually, I probably did it more than I wanted to. You can tap the brush on the side of the container, so let me show you what I mean, to kind of get the extra powder off of the brush, and then close your bin. And now I'm going to take a large brush. Now this could be a large paintbrush, or it could be a makeup brush, like a foundation brush, but it should be nice and big and nice and soft because you want it to be very gentle. And what I like to do is just kind of take a minute and just push that down just for a second. This is a very light push. This is not even, I shouldn't even say push. It's just a touch the ink, touch the brush to the powder so that it kind of goes into the ink. Now I'm going to take the whole thing away from the frame long enough to put it over my garbage bin, and I'm going to use very gentle strokes to take the extra powder off. And as I do that over my garbage bin, I'm going to be very careful not to brush, no pressure, just dust, like you're dusting your house. I'll be right back. Once you dust it off, you'll notice how gorgeous that is. I swear, I cannot get that look and feel with anything that smooth except gold leafing. So it's amazing what this powder can do on a wet stamp. And the little spots of blue really help to accentuate the detail in the stamp. So then the last thing to do is let's just put a sentiment right here. You can take any sentiment. I'm going to use one actually from the More Merry Messages, which was from last year's Christmas catalog. I'm going to use that with a clear mount, and this one is the C, and I'm going to use a deep black, and so I'm going to use VersaFine because it's a nice deep black. And I'm going to have that tuck right over by one of those gold points. And isn't that just the coolest little easy card? You could use it as a like a gift card to go in a box because it's nice and small, or you could use it, you know, as a embellishment on your box when you're creating your packaging for your Christmas cards. But it's such a neat little thing. It's very easy. Try it with different stamps. Try it with a variety of greetings. I really love this technique. I'll give you a couple of pictures of different formats as well. Enjoy, and thanks so much for supporting my channel. Bye-bye.